but leave the tacos alone. Uh, wow. Well, so that is a thrilling conclusion. Thank you to everybody who participated in the Talon space mission. Uh, we'll be kind of slicing up those videos of everybody who submitted code for the space mission and sending those out to you. So bear with us. We'll make sure that that happens. But if you remember yesterday, before we were so rudely interrupted by Frederick, we wanted to bring on another special guest, somebody who we wanted to present the first ever Hope, Power, and Freedom Award to, presented to a developer who lives the operator's code from the Twilio Quest game, which, as you might know, swears developers to use their technical skills only to unlock hope, power, and freedom for all of humanity. So we talked to a bunch of people at Twilio and a bunch of people in the community, and we're like, let's try to find out like who in the Twilio community has been doing awesome work this year with our technology and with their technical skills. And one name was at the top of lots of different lists when we talk to folks. And that name is the name of our guest, Nick Hurlbert from Tech Matters. Nick, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Awesome. I'm doing great. Thank you very much for joining us here today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for saving the world's tacos. Like that. That was
Uh,
a big one.
you know what? It was a team effort. We needed hundreds of people in the Signal community to handle this business, but it's true. If the tacos were gone, it like Frederick may well have succeeded. He would have stolen my will to live.
Oh, and that would have been sad indeed.
Yeah, it would have been a sad day for sure. So anyway, we yes. So what we were hoping to do, and I apologize for this in advance. You will later this week, actually, I think it's probably going to be next week, receive the formal award package. The logistics, my handle of logistics is not what it could be, but we definitely do want to recognize you with this reward because of the work that you've done with Oslo this year. And you actually were on the stream earlier to talk a little bit about this product. But for those of us who maybe weren't around to take in that presentation, could you maybe give a few say a few words about kind of what the Oslo project is all about?
Sure, happy to. So, Acelo is a contact
Sorry,
center
say it wrong.
platform for. It's okay. It's a no big deal. So it's a contact center platform for child helplines around the world. So the idea is to be able to provide to nonprofits sort of a common shared platform that they can all use. So we're working with child helplines in different parts of the world. So right now we have helplines in South Africa, Zambia, Malawi, and Ethiopia running, and there's a lot more that we're talking to and that we're looking to onboard soon. But it's really, these helplines do a tremendous amount of work. They do a tremendous amount of stuff to help kids get the help they need, whether that's just counseling, or sometimes there's crises or issues like suicide or something like that they have to that they're dealing with. So, in a lot of times, they are fulfilling a lot of critical needs in a lot of different parts of the world, and they deserve to have good technology, and they deserve to have to be able to work as efficiently as they can and as easily as they can. And they want kids to be able to talk to them through whichever communication channel, whether that's calling on the phone or WhatsApp or SMS or any of those things. So we're working to try to help them to just make a bigger impact and make a bigger difference.
Awesome. Yeah, and that definitely seems to be what's happening. So uh, maybe I'm also kind of curious to hear about like how the project started. Like how did you become attached to it as a leader, and kind of where did it like when did you start working on it, and when did you kind of decide to make this decision to build it on top of Flex too? It's actually one of the more complicated and like really cool Flex implementations that we've seen in a long time as well. But yeah, we would just love to kind of hear about the origins of the project.
Sure. Yeah. So I think it's funny how a lot of these connections and people who knew each other for a while, then something big things turn into it. So the way that Acelo got started was a conversation between Tech Matters CEO Jim Futterman and the founder of Childline India, and who then went on to found Child Helpline International, which is an organization of all of these helplines, Drew, Bill, and Moria. And they had a conversation where Drew was talking about some of the technical issues that these helplines were having. And Jim said, "Oh, well, we can do something about this." And right about that time, I was really in a place where I was looking to do something like this, doing something that can have a great impact using software. And Jim and I had met, and we started in the past, and we got talking more, and this sounded like a cool thing. So we went out and did an initial conversation a couple of years ago with a number of helplines, sort of pitched a demo that was using Flex and using something very, very simple at first, but it gave them an idea. They were really excited about it. And using Flex was just really having conversations with people at Twilio. This was a couple of years ago. Flex has come a long way since then too, but it was great then. And just I think the Twilio.org people were just really, really excited about this and really willing to work with us. And we loved that what they were offering was programmable, and that we could get in there and we could do a lot. And since all of these helplines, they're so unique and they're so different, but they have a lot of common needs. So we thought this is something that we could use we can have a core system, and then we can customize on top of that. And with Flex, we were able to do that.
Nice, that's awesome. It's a detail that maybe I'm more interested in, but how does that customization work? Like, do you kind of have like a services model where kind of you'll identify an organization that you want to work with, and then like you go through an implementation phase with them and kind of understand their needs and do that sort of stuff? How does that process play out?
Sure. So what our team will do is, when we have an initial conversation with the helpline, we'll talk to them, we'll talk about their needs. We have a process where they tell us things like, for example, what kind of data do they collect? So some helplines are completely anonymous. Some of them collect a lot of information because they're doing a lot of referrals and follow-up. So we'll ask them, what do they need and what sort of languages do they provide, and all of those things. And we have a process, and our team has done a great job of making that more and more streamlined and better for everyone. And then we'll set up separate instances of Flex for each of these helplines, and we deploy the same code to all of them, and we have deployment pipelines that will do that. But then we have customization on top of it, which is mostly JSON files. So we can add into that JSON like the different sorts of things that they want to collect. We also use things like the Flex configuration. So we have a lot of different ways where we can tweak it, with the goal of having common software that we're deploying to all of those instances, but then different configuration on top of that to enable helplines needs. And it's still ongoing. Like, we're still every time we start with a new helpline or work with a new one, there's always one more thing like, oh, okay, well, let's add that. So it's just an organic process of building out the software and the platform.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I can imagine there is a new wrinkle every time, and trying to like solve the technical problem of keeping those core components up to date while still being able to maintain those customizations is definitely, I can imagine, a major technical challenge.
Absolutely. And it's an exciting challenge too. It's, figuring out how do we, as an engineer, thinking through how do we build something that's standard so that we're not just going and doing lots of crazy one-off stuff, and we're building a bigger platform, but we're also meeting the needs of each individual helpline as well.
Yeah, for sure. And maybe like zooming out a little bit, I know like a lot of folks watching the program today maybe work for an enterprise software company, or they work for some kind of commercial software company, and they maybe know one way of kind of dealing with customers or dealing with their business domain, but working with nonprofits is kind of a unique set of technical challenges. And I wonder, like, having this experience and having worked with nonprofits in the past, like, what do you think are some of the unique problems of like building technology and serving nonprofits with technology that maybe don't exist in other sectors?
Yeah, we're the goal of Tech Matters overall is really to bring the benefits of technology to all of humanity. And where some of that comes into play, I think some parts are really, really a lot of empathy and understanding around really trying to understand their needs and not jumping it too quickly into, oh, well, I know what you need. I know what you want. And recognizing that, I don't know the issues that a helpline or a children have in Ethiopia or in various places. And so we need to listen, and we need to sort of set our assumptions aside and really try to get it. And when something is surprising, say, oh, well, that's interesting. Tell me more. Like, how can I update my understanding? So I think that's really important. I think there's a lot of stuff that's, I think, just true of people anywhere, is when you listen to them and you're responsive and you try to do what you can, that works. That's good, whether it's a nonprofit or a commercial environment or whatever. I think some of the other things are around sort of being patient, understanding. I do a lot of Zoom and a lot of video calls with people, say in different parts of the world, and sometimes their internet isn't as good, or they don't use video, or sort of being understanding there. And then just having patience, and many of them don't have a lot of technical background. And so there's some more explaining and some more understanding that you have to do. But ultimately, those are the people that we can really benefit by doing this and have a lot of impact. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, for sure. And like I think you mentioned like you are sometimes at least working with a constituency that isn't like it isn't necessarily about technology. They're about like delivering their service. They're experts in that. Like, have you ever had to make any decisions differently than you would in like in a different setting? Like if you were building software for Twilio versus building software for a child helpline, like what are maybe some examples of decisions that you made because of the special constraints of the audience you were trying to serve?
This is one of those questions where probably just after this, I'll come up with like the smashing best example of these things. So, I mean, I think there's flexibility. There's some of the things that come to mind. I think we really, again, thinking about how much internet speed are these people going to have, and we're not all just sitting on great networks in places of work, whatever. So thinking through, like, is that going to work for them? Or some of the more practical issues around even just how we're doing the UI design. And I am not a UI design person. We have a fantastic designer who does this, but thinking through, are those things going to be clear to people? Are some of the phrases or terms that we use, are those text specific? Are those US specific? Are those going to work in other places? I think things like that. And yeah, like I feel like there's probably some more examples out there about the software. But I think a lot of it just, again, comes down to understanding what people are trying to do and being flexible, and also being flexible in terms of dates and deadlines and things that come up and emergencies in places, and just giving them some leeway and just knowing that we're going to get there eventually.
Absolutely awesome. So another thing I wanted to ask about, as a technical leader, it's sort of incumbent upon you to kind of stay on top of technologies and trends and like things that could positively benefit your work. Is there a new piece of tech out there that you're really excited about, like a new framework, a new shiny toy that is code-based that you're really hoping to dig into sometime soon?
Oh man, I wish I could keep up with as many things as there are. I feel like it just keeps on getting bigger and bigger every year, and there's probably also,
especially if you touch JavaScript, there's always
probably some of this. Yeah, so one of our developers, a couple of our developers really made a push towards TypeScript. I had started out building everything in just working with a Flex plugin. I was on my own for a while writing code, doing just basic JavaScript and React, and then our developers were like, we should be doing TypeScript. And I said, we'll make a case for it. And they did. And they've done a great job of rolling that out and making that work. that's been really cool. Some of the things that Twilio's rolled out, we're excited to see email being something that's going to come out soon. There's a lot of helplines are really going to value that. I GraphQL is something that we didn't do it from the start, but I'm looking at possibly doing some of that. And I think one of the things that will continue to be important kind of at a macro level is the more cloud infrastructure that's available in a lot of different parts of the world. Like there are places where it's just assumed that you're going to have cloud infrastructure and that's going to work great. There are also places in the world where it's still kind of a struggle and it's still developing. And so I'm looking forward to, in some of the places that are a bit behind on that, having more of that cloud be available, having it be consistent, good latency and everything, so that people don't have to, it's not running across an entire, an API call or something isn't running across an entire continent to come back. And just seeing some of those larger things, which will really, I think, open up a lot of capability for people around the world to be able to do a lot of great work themselves.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's awesome. And I've been on a similar journey with TypeScript. I've been writing JavaScript for a fairly long time, and have been sort of a crusty old curmudgeon about these newfangled TypeScript tools. But I have to admit, it is pretty nice.
Well,
sometimes the compiler helps.
I've done most of my coding in Java, and so stepping away from something that's typed, it's like, oh, I can't remember, what is this parameter? What does this mean? I don't know. But so I've been actually secretly really happy that they've been adopting that, because now I find it that when I do dive into the code and I start to do some of my own stuff, like it's so much better to understand, like, okay, this is what this is. So, yeah.
Yeah, I do have to begrudgingly admit that sometimes it is nice to know what type of parameter is without having to like console log in or look at the documentation. That is kind of nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So another thing that I was hoping to ask about, most of us as programmers have kind of an origin story of like how we got hooked on programming, and I would love to hear yours of like kind of how did you get into programming as a career or as a hobby, or kind of where did you start?
Oh man, yeah. So my parents are wonderful people, and they're probably watching. So hello, hi mom, dad. And when I was a kid, I won't say how young, this does kind of date me, they bought me a Commodore 64. Like
nice.
An old, and for the first couple of years, all I did was play video games on it. And then I realized that there was a program manual. And so I was like, oh, I can program my own stuff. And I just started playing around with Commodore 64 Basic. And I didn't know anyone else who was doing that. I didn't, there was no internet to share this with. Like, I just started playing with it and I thought it was really cool. And that ended up kind of being the thing that guided me through into doing computer science in college, and then going on and working in software.
Awesome. Well, no, that is cool. And I think most of us had a similar, or a lot of us had a similar path. I hear using the computer and figuring out how to play games is usually like the gateway to like actually figuring out how they work. So yeah, that's awesome. So I know we have to kind of wrap it up. So I have just a couple more questions for you. The first one of those is, if people are interested in contributing to the work that you're doing, is that something you're ready for right now? Like, are you looking to kind of build a community around the technology you're building? And if so, like, how could people get started and help out?
Sure. So I think one of the things that we really can benefit now is people that may have a specific expertise in certain areas, any technical area. Obviously, things with Twilio, various security things, infrastructure things. So even sometimes having short conversations or having someone chip in a little bit can be really impactful. I think that's one area. I think another thing is we don't have we are an open source project, so everything is open source. As a relatively small group right now, we haven't done a lot to build out like an open source community. So we don't have a lot of that yet, but I'd certainly be open to that happening at some point. So I think, people that are interested in that, I'd be happy to talk with them. We also do have job openings from time to time. And anyone who's really excited about doing this kind of work, it'd be great to talk to them. So if that fits, if that sounds good to anyone out there, you can hit contact@asalo.org, or you can email me, nick@techmatters.org, and I'd be happy to talk.
Fantastic. I wouldn't be surprised if you had many takers on the offer. And now the final question, which is an obligatory one that we ask everybody who joins us on the stream or at a Twilio event. When considering, so here, what I will couch it in a certain way, and the chat is probably going to get mad at me for qualifying it in this way. When you think about desserts, do you prefer cake or pie, and why?
Probably pie. And I think a reason is that I also just really like fruit. And so like a nice, fresh, like a peach pie or a cherry pie or an apple pie or something like that. That's just like the best of all those things. If there's some ice cream on top of it, even better.
That is true. I have to give it to pie. Like, pie is a better fruit delivery mechanism than cake is, really. So I think your logic is airtight there. I am team cake myself, but team pie is, like, I think, winning the arm wrestling match at Twilio for.
Certainly nothing wrong with cake. That's a great option too.
Awesome. All right. Well then, Nick, I think I'm going to let you get back to it. But once again, thanks for hanging out with us, and thank you very much for the work that you're doing. It's technically very impressive, and it's already having a great impact. So thank you for the work that you do every day.
Thank you so much, guys.